O'Sullivan or O'Sullivan, possibly meaning hawk-eyed or one-eyed, amongst other possible translations. The clan is associated with the southwestern part of Ireland. Originally, their principal seat was within the parish of Knockgraffan, County Tipperary, before the Anglo-Norman invasion. They are said to have been an unrelated smaller family of O'Sullivan, now anglicised to O'Sullivan, in Ulster and the Midlands, whose principal seat may have been in Moneyhoolahan in County Longford. According to the clan genealogy recorded in the 17th century, the O'Sullivans are descended from the legendary Sullivan of the Kinilfineen of the Anocta Cashel, a branch of the Anocta Kings of Munster. The Anocta were an Irish dynasty centred on Cashel in County Tipperary. This family grouping would dominate Irish politics with its rivals D. Neil. This family group would rule Munster till the rise of the Dol-Cash in the late 10th century. They themselves claimed to be a cadet branch of this dynasty. In the 9th century, the O'Sullivan name appeared, and so had Norse settlers. Like many Gaelic families, they would have started to interact with the Norse families coming ashore and settling within the Kingdom of Munster's traditional boundaries. The Norse started building towns like Limerick, Waterford and Cork, and intermarrying and fostering the children of noble families, such as the O'Sullivans. During this time, Munster was ruled by Cellachan Cashel, of the same Anocta Cashel family as the O'Sullivans. He led a Norse-Gael alliance against the Neil kings of Meath and claimed High King of Ireland Donogh. Cellachan also defeated and killed Kennetig MacLorcan and two of his sons at the Battle of Gorrotachan. Both events would have involved his close kinsmen the O'Sullivans, although no one could foresee the impact of killing Kennetig would have, as his son was only a child at the time, his son of course being none other than Brian Boru. When the O'Briens had taken over the Munster kingship, the O'Sullivans were still able to maintain their land in Knockgraffan, although Cashel was taken and eventually awarded to the church. In 1169, the Norman invasion in Ireland started. By 1180, the Norman incursions into Munster brought them into direct conflict with the clan. By 1193, the O'Sullivans were forced from their original homeland to County Kerry and Cork. A mock castle was built on the very ruins of the clan's ancestral seat. The clan first settled in Carrick-Mayo Castle in the townland of Carrick, before being displaced by the McCarthy Moors. The O'Sullivans moved on and by conquest took lands from clans such as the O'Driscolls and Moriartys. From their first coming into Cork and Kerry, the clan divided into two great branches, the O'Sullivan Moor and the O'Sullivan Bera, with the O'Sullivan Bera taking lands south of the Kenmare River. The seat of the chief of the O'Sullivan Bera branch was at Dunboy, and he also held the castles of Bantry and Carriganis. The principal castle of the chief of the O'Sullivan Moor was at Dunkerran. Dunlow Castle was also built by the O'Sullivan Moor in the 13th century and was used to guard the only pass which gave access from North Kerry to his country. They became the chief princes underneath their close kinsman the McCarthy dynasty in the Kingdom of Desmond. The Anglo-Norman advance into McCarthy and O'Sullivan territory was finally halted at the Battle of Callan in 1261, when the clans of McCarthy, O'Sullivan and O'Donoghue won a complete victory over a strong Norman army. Having been squeezed from the fertile plains of Tipperary to the rocky hills of Kerry, saw the clan often fighting amongst themselves and their own kin, the McCarthys, for resources, land and political dominance. The annals are filled with these records of warfare. In the 16th century, the O'Sullivan Bera clan were divided again. Donald O'Sullivan, the chieftain, was slain in 1563. His son, Donald Cam, was only a child. The Gaelic laws of Tanistry required that the title of chieftain be passed on to the most capable of the dead chief's family. As a result, the clan decided that Owen, one of the brothers of the dead Chief Donald, would take over the control of the clan. During the Earl of Desmond's rebellions, many branches supported the rebellion, including the chief of the Oswald McGillicuddy Sept. As retribution for their support of the Desmond Rebellion, the Munster clans lost over 500,000 acres of their land to English settlers. In 1587, Donald Calm, now 26 years old, decided to claim the leadership of the clan, having proven his capability to lead many times over the years. One instance, when he was 18, he led a party of 50 men against over 300 raiders. When Captain Zouche had led a party of McSweeney's, O'Donophans and English into Sullivan territory. Donald Calm now petitioned the authorities in Dublin, using primogeniture as the basis for his claim, whereby the oldest son should inherit his father's titles regardless of his age at the time of his father's death. The English Commission in Dublin preferred to have the primogeniture followed throughout Ireland and were more than happy to support Donald's claim. In addition, Sir Owen had lost influence in Dublin due to implications in the Desmond Rebellion. The Commission found in favour of Donald, who is now the O'Sullivan Beara. The Commission considered the area of Beara and Bantry to consist of 60 quarters. 8 of these belonged to the Bishop of Cork, 33 to certain freeholders, and 19 belonged to O'Sullivan and his septs. They divided the 19 between Donald and his uncles Owen and Philip. During the 9 Years' War, King Philip III of Spain agreed to send help to his co-religionists in Ireland under the command of Don Juan Aguila. Rather than landing in Ulster as suggested by O'Neill, the Spanish forces landed in Kinsale in County Cork to avoid encountering English warships in the Irish Sea. The war-weary and decimated Munster clans had difficulty mustering an army to join the Ulster and Spanish forces, and with their chief McCarthy under arrest and his rival Donald McCarthy having been installed by the English, the Spanish were unable to gain a decent foothold. The Spanish were given the responsibility of forming the garrisons for the castles of the O'Driscolls and the O'Sullivans, so as to free the Irish troops for the battles to come. Donald Calm O'Sullivan Beara was given command of the Munster forces, which consisted mainly of soldiers of his clan and those of the O'Driscolls, McSweeneys and O'Connor-Kerrys. Daniel O'Sullivan Moore could only contribute token support because of the losses he had sustained in previous years. Donald marched to Kinsale with an army of 1,000 men. He sent a letter to King Philip swearing allegiance to him as his sovereign. The letter was intercepted by the English agents and was later used as a reason for denying him pardon. After the Battle of Kinsale in 1601, O'Neill moved back to Tyrone with his troops. O'Donnell handed over command of his soldiers to his brother and embarked for Spain to plead for more help from King Philip. General Aguila sued for peace, and Lord Mountjoy, commander of the English, was only too happy to accept his request. Donald Calm wrote to King Philip complaining about the behaviour of Aguila. When Aguila returned to Spain, he was held in contempt by the king and put under house arrest. Many of the O'Sullivan clan's non-combatants were sent to the island of Dursey to keep them out of harm's way. An English force with some Irish contingents led by John Bostock attacked the small garrison guarding the island. They butchered the entire population of the island, women and children, and the garrison. They cast their bodies, some while they were still alive, onto the rocks below the cliff overlooking the sea. The O'Sullivan Beara principal fortress, Dunboy Castle, was destroyed in the siege of Dunboy in 1602, and its garrison was put to death by hanging. Donald Calm had approximately 1,000 followers, consisting of 400 soldiers and the rest civilians, from clan members to allies, all trying to make it to Leitrim, to the castle of his friend O'Rourke. He believed that he could hold out longer amongst his northern allies, the O'Donnells and the O'Neills, leaving behind the old and the sick in the hope the pursuing soldiers would take mercy on them. They were wrong. Their clansmen were slaughtered. Cary had declared them outlaws and decreed that anyone that aided them would be dealt with as outlaws as well. Throughout the 300-mile march, they were attacked by the English forces and Irish that were loyal to Elizabeth. The countryside had been ravaged by war and famine. The people along the way were trying to stay alive themselves. They could ill afford to provide any aid of food. The O'Sullivans began the march on 31st of December 1602. A detailed account of the march is provided by soldier and historian Philip O'Sullivan Barra, a nephew of Donald Cavan O'Sullivan. Of the 1,000 that left on the 14-day march, only 35 tired and hungry souls would pass through the castle gates. Some had been killed in many battles along the way, often fighting larger groups of English soldiers and followers, or forced to attack well-defended castles for supplies. Some had just stopped, refusing to go on any further, and left with a gold coin and a prayer that they may find shelter somewhere. But many died from exposure from the bitter winter winds, unable to light fires for fear of giving away their position. O'Rourke sheltered O'Sullivan Barra and his band until he was able to help them obtain passage to Spain with the help of the O'Driscolls. Donald was greeted by the King of Spain, who treated him as a royal prince, although he would later be murdered by an Englishman, John Bath, as he left Mass in 1618. During the War of the Three Kingdoms, Daniel O'Sullivan Moore raised a regiment for King Charles of 110 young and beardless men. When Cromwell landed in Ireland, his famous bloody campaign saw the death of Father Francis O'Sullivan, who was beheaded on the island, an execution symbolic of cavalry, which left Kerry for years without a bishop. Many smaller branches of O'Sullivans had their lands forfeited by Cromwell's government and re-granted to his soldiers and supporters, such as the Earl of Anglesey, who earned 94,000 acres of forfeited estates of Beara and Bantry. Another beneficiary of the confiscated lands was the White family, who bought large tracts of land from the Cromwellian government. The family would own nearly 70,000 acres of land in Cork. Eventually, the White family would be raised to the title of Earls of Bantry. Although a few O'Sullivans would have their lands restored under the restoration of the Stuart monarchy. But the Williamite War in Ireland and the Battle of the Boyne in 1690 saw the end of the Stuart dynasty. This also saw the undoing of most of Charles's land grants. The war in Ireland formally ended with the Treaty of Limerick. This allowed over 14,000 Irish soldiers under Patrick Sarsfield to leave for France. These men went on to join the French and Spanish armies in what became known as the Flight of the Wild Geese. Most Irish Catholic landowners were allowed to keep their land, provided they swore allegiances to the crown. While the Treaty of Limerick had offered a series of guarantees to Catholics, it wasn't ratified until 1697, and subsequent extensions of the penal laws effectively made it null and void. One of the leaders of the Jacobite risings of 1745 was John William O'Sullivan. John's ancestors were the O'Sullivan Moors, lords of Duncarron. During the Cromwellian confiscations, John O'Sullivan's grandfather, Owen, had most of his land forfeited and given to Sir William Petty. The rising was an attempt to regain the British throne for the exiled House of Stuart. During the rising, he acted as Adjutant General and Quartermaster General for the Jacobite army and had a major influence on the campaign. Other O'Sullivans had left for America, some having major impacts, including Major General and eventual Governor of New Hampshire, John Sullivan. He was an Irish-American general in the Revolutionary War, winning several key battles for the United States. His brother James was also Governor of Massachusetts. Not all O'Sullivans found themselves against the British. Many integrated successfully, such as Sir Richard Joseph Sullivan, 1st Baronet of Thames Ditton. One of his sons, Henry Sullivan, served as an officer in the Coldstream Guards and was killed at the Battle of Bayonne in 1814. Also, Sir Edward Sullivan, 1st Baronet of Garryduff, who held many titles including Lord Chancellor of Ireland. Many more O'Sullivans would make their mark around the world through things such as sports, business and politics. Thank you for watching. I will cover the steps of the O'Sullivans in another video. If you wish to see more, please like and subscribe. Also, please follow my weekly podcast with Irish medieval histories. I'll leave a link in the description. Thank you.